Hello, my name is Daphne Fischer-Gewirtzman, and I'm a professor of architecture at the Faculty of Architecture and Town Planning at the Technion. Architect Aviv Shwartz was my master student, and today I'll present our work, The Impact of Building Facade Characteristics on the Perceived Values in Various Urban Typologies, an experiment in virtual reality. The content of this talk includes introduction and motivation, the research objectives and research background, the course of research and experiments in VR, experiment results, summary conclusions, and future plans. The movement through the routes of Venice, Barcelona, and other environments provides very different perceptual values. Their perceptual values are influenced by their attractiveness of their spaces, if they're pleasant and vibrant, spaciousness, density, safeness of their routes, and additional spatial elements such as landmarks location, green spaces, including major trees, textures, and building facades. And in this work, we focused on facades along the pedestrian path. Encouraging pedestrian walkability is one of the fundamentals for sustainable urban environments. As we know, walkability promotes urban well-being, happier and healthier residents, safer neighborhoods. That is why various requirements should be visualized and perceived by the user along pedestrian paths. Movement along different urban typologies may result in diverse patterns of visual perception. So our research objective was to explore the perceived values in various urban typologies through an experiment in virtual reality and to point out the influence of facade design, textures, elements, etc., as part of the general evaluation by experiment subjects. The research background includes work from the following relevant areas: how built environments influence pedestrian behavior, research based on experiments conducted in virtual reality, and the development of visibility analysis and simulation tools for predicting pedestrian well-being. Focusing on the dynamic 3D visibility analysis, the DVA model that was developed in our lab and assessed by experiments in our VR lab. And we aim to further update and advance the model. This work is a follow-up research project focusing on these 4 case studies: different urban typologies, different density, height of buildings, land cover, textures, and building facades, where we expected the perceived values to be very different. Previously, we simulated the visibility of pedestrians in all 4 case studies, walking in a typical route: Manhattan and Barcelona along the grid, in Venice going along the narrow alleys, and in Singapore a much more freely path. The outcomes were unique patterns of visibility graphs for each case study, calculated by the DVA model. For the current experiment, we realized we needed additional parameters such as textures and facade detailing in order to create a stronger sense of realism for simulating the different pedestrian paths. We prepared video clips following the typical routes for each case study: Manhattan, Barcelona, Singapore, and Venice. And the experiments were conducted in a controlled environment, our visualization lab, and the videos were projected in a counterbalance order. Here you see the 40 subjects experiencing the detailed facades for all environments. "25 subjects experienced the blank facades for all environments. On the left, we see again Barcelona, this time with the blank facades, and on the right, we see Manhattan. Subjects were asked to evaluate each route on a scale of 1 to 7. In an additional questionnaire, they were asked to indicate which parameters influenced their experience in a positive way during the virtual tour. We will go through some of the experiment mean value results, such as, would you like to explore this route? Manhattan was the most favorable and Singapore the least. Does the environment along the route make you feel relaxed? Barcelona was the most relaxing and Venice was the least. How illuminated is the route? Singapore was the most, Venice was the least. So for experiments with the detailed facades, positive and pleasant environment was also perceived as relaxing, safe, and illuminated. Stressful environment was also dark, unsafe, dense, and unspacious. We did find a gap between positive feeling in the environment and the desire to explore it in Singapore. And parameters that led to positive feelings were visual openness, amount of vegetation, and appearance and style of building. And that is when we decided to conduct the same experiment with blank facades. So now we compare the results from both environments for each location, detailed facades and blank facades. For Venice, detailed facades were perceived as more explorable, relaxing, illuminated, vibrant, and safe. Blank facades were perceived as even more stressful, darker, but their perceived density was similar in both. Detailed facades for Manhattan were perceived as more explorable, relaxing, illuminated, vibrant, and spacious, pleasant, and safe. In the interlace in Singapore, the blank facades were perceived as more illuminated, vibrant, and safe, and more participants wanted to explore the environments. Appearance of the building was much more influential in blank facades, probably because of the unique morphology. This has to be checked in future research. In Barcelona, the detailed facades were more explorable, relaxing, illuminated, vibrant, spacious, pleasant, and safe. Appearance of buildings raised from 5% in the blank facades to 50% in detailed facades. So this is also probably because or due to their morphology. To summarize, in 3 out of 4 case studies, the appearance of buildings and their style was much higher in detailed facades for Manhattan, Barcelona, and Venice. For the interlace, it was quite the opposite. Vegetation was much more influential for blank facades in Manhattan and Barcelona. In Singapore and Venice, it was very similar for both, very high in Singapore and very low in Venice. The degree of diversity was more noticeable in the blank facades for Manhattan and Singapore, and the detailed facades for Barcelona and Venice. Subjects preferred living in detailed facades for Manhattan, Barcelona, and Venice, but at the blank facades in Singapore. Detailed facades created more pleasant moments along the path in Barcelona and Manhattan, and in the blank facades for the interlace in Singapore. So our summary conclusion and future plans. In this research project, the perceived values in various urban typologies were explored through experiments in virtual reality. The influence of facades was tested in a parallel experiment as part of the general evaluation. Positive and pleasant environment was also perceived as relaxing, safe, and illuminated. Stressful environment was also perceived as dark, unsafe, dense, and not spacious. Parameters that led to positive feeling along the virtual pedestrian path were visual openness, amount of vegetation, and the appearance and style of buildings. Visual openness and the amount of vegetation can already be evaluated in a quantifiable model such as the DVA, while the appearance and style of buildings still has to be quantified. As we learned, building facades along pedestrian route had a great impact on the perception of well-being of the users. Additional case studies are currently examined. The relations of urban typology, building typology, and facade typology will be explored, and their relative influence on well-being. We plan to update the DVA model as an urban well-being simulation and assessment model. The DVA could help explain various urban phenomena and can be used to predict and evaluate the human experience in existing urban environments, as well as a tool to evaluate future planning and design proposals for better pedestrian experience in future urban environments. We thank you very much for your attention.